a lot of the love I had for wanting to be a part of the industry is not there anymore. I don't even associate myself with the industry. You know what I'm saying? I'm not an industry artist. I'm an artist in the industry. You're not gonna see me at every party, every industry party, all the clubs. I go somewhere quiet, man, shoot pool with me and my mans and them. You know what I'm saying? I ain't with all that in the club shit, throwing it up and all that bullshit. I ain't got time for that shit, man.
I have a reason to be scared. You could be Kang the Conqueror, and they could take your rabbit ass down in 2 weekends. Maybe I'm a conspiracy theory, but I thought Katt Williams said anytime they make you into that position, part of that contract is you do understand whenever we want to take you down, we can, right? Yeah, they love fooling the people.
A quiet studio, a single microphone, a story that has waited decades to be heard. Picture the late 90s, a rising rapper named Earl Simmons, better known as DMX, steps away from the mixing console and warns anyone who will listen that superstar life is not what the glossy magazines promise. He says powerful people inside record labels demand loyalty that crosses the line. He claims some executives punish performers who refuse. Most fans shrug and move on, distracted by platinum singles and award shows. Fast forward a few years, a fearless comedian named Katt Williams repeats similar warnings, calls the game a spiritual battlefield, and is almost instantly labeled unstable by the same entertainment press that once celebrated him. Headlines shout about arrests and canceled shows, yet beneath the noise a deeper pattern is forming. The same mogul who brushed off DMX and later tangled with Williams, Sean Diddy Combs, now sits in a Manhattan federal courtroom facing counts of racketeering, forced trafficking, and witness intimidation. If the jury convicts, he could spend the rest of his life behind bars. Suddenly, the conversations once dismissed as conspiracy seem uncomfortably close to the truth. Before we dive, a quick favor. If you enjoy honest storytelling that cuts through industry spin, please tap the like button and subscribe right now. It costs nothing, tells the algorithm to keep sharing independent voices, and helps this channel bring you more deep dive reporting without corporate filter. Thank you for supporting free speech and music culture. Back to DMX. When his debut album It's Dark and Hell is Hot hit #1, his rasping growl sounded fearless, but friends say he remained a cautious observer off stage. In interviews, he spoke about payola, private gatherings where contracts were sealed far from any lawyer, and executives who offered lavish rewards for unquestioned submission. The quote that survives on fan forums reads, "I am not an industry artist. I am an artist in the industry." Those words, simple on the surface, carried a challenge. An industry artist, said DMX, surrenders creative freedom and sometimes personal dignity for radio rotation. An artist in the industry negotiates terms on his own. The price of that independence is isolation. You lose favor, lose press, maybe even lose income. Yet DMX accepted the cost, refusing deals that came with extra strings. One decision changed everything. In the mid-90s, DMX auditioned for Bad Boy Records. According to multiple interviews, Diddy liked the voice but doubted the scars, the pit bull energy, the unpredictable bark. He passed. Weeks later, executives at Def Jam smelled a blockbuster and offered a large advance. Diddy, seeing the numbers on the table, rushed back in and promised to double the cash if DMX would switch sides. DMX said no. He later told Vibe magazine that persistent rumors about Bad Boy's private culture drove his refusal. Stories of closed-door gatherings where the party never truly stopped. Stories of financial terms that blurred friendship and business beyond recognition. Turning that offer down made DMX a folk hero for fans of artistic purity, but it also marked him as a skeptic in the eyes of the most powerful figure in New York rap. The warnings continued. On mixtape interludes and satellite radio appearances, DMX described what he called favor for favor economics. Expensive dinners that came with unstated obligations. Executives who hinted that gratitude could mean more than a thank you. Programmers who switched off the microphone if you declined. He dropped the track The Industry in 2000, rapping that talent matters less than obedience, that some artists sell more than their music to survive. At the time, this critique sounded extreme. Listeners focused on his arrests for driving without a license, his missed court dates, his public battle with substance abuse. Easy narrative, neat headline, troubled rapper spirals downward, yet DMX never faced an accusation of predatory behavior toward fans or minors. His legal file centered on drugs, weapons, and probation mistakes, not exploitation of vulnerable people. In that detail lies the contrast at the heart of today's story. Enter Katt Williams. From 2006 to 2009, he packed arenas with a lightning mix of street insight and Sunday sermon cadence. Then everything shifted. A Walmart parking lot standoff, repeated traffic stops, a dramatic raid at his Atlanta home where officers claimed children were endangered by firearms. Each headline landed within months of his boldest interviews. Williams insisted the pattern was retaliation. He said Hollywood parties masked darker recruitment rituals. He said producers who cross certain lines quickly disappear from award season guest lists. The most unsettling moment came in December 2012 when officers removed his adopted children after a tip about unsecured weapons. Charges were eventually dropped, but not before networks rolled wall-to-wall footage of police cars outside his gate. Williams called it a witch hunt, adding that he had been hauled to jail 36 times in 36 months without ever standing trial. Tabloids smiled at the quote and kept calling him erratic. Both men framed their pushback as spiritual warfare. DMX spoke to Dr. Phil in 2013 about 3 encounters with evil forces personified in corporate offers. He said he recognized darkness by the shortcuts it dangled, fame without accountability, money without purpose, pleasure without conscience. He recalled loving Arizona's sunrises until one desert meeting convinced him that even beauty can host corruption. After that incident, he refused to perform in the state, refused even to fly over it. Without naming names, he suggested that somebody in that landscape promised him the world if he would relax his moral code. He declined and never looked back. Williams echoed the theology years later on the Club Shay Shay podcast. According to him, the most important job for anyone who already compromised is to pretend nothing happened, because acknowledgement would shatter the illusion that success is clean. Williams concluded with a binary, God's side or the other side. Skeptics argued that addiction, stress, and overwork fueled these stories. But the years kept turning and new claims kept surfacing, especially around Sean Combs. In 2023, singer Cassie Ventura filed a civil suit alleging coercive control, threats of violence, and the use of private recordings as blackmail. The case settled in 24 hours for a reported $20 million, but the floodgates opened. Within 12 months, more than 80 plaintiffs, both male and female, filed civil actions. Homeland Security joined the investigation. On a March morning in 2024, agents executed a no-knock warrant at Combs' Star Island mansion in Miami. Court exhibits list unregistered firearm parts, high-capacity magazines, controlled substances, and dozens of adult-themed accessories seized from walk-in closets. Federal prosecutors later argued that the property hosted invite-only events where business discussions shared space with adult entertainment. Combs' lawyers call those gatherings private parties among consenting adults and deny any illegal activity, yet the evidence traveled from Florida to the Southern District of New York. The trial opened in April 2025. Within the first 2 weeks, rapper Kid Cudi took the stand and recalled a 2011 incident in which Combs allegedly ordered damage to Cudi's vehicle after learning about Cudi's friendship with Ventura. Former assistants described forced lie detector tests, confiscated cell phones, and round-the-clock surveillance. One assistant, Capricorn Clark, testified that she watched Combs break into Cudi's Hollywood Hills home and forced her to help rummage through personal belongings. She told the jury that years later she referred to Combs as the devil on social media, a phrase that echoes DMX's warnings with eerie precision. Federal agents outlined encrypted messaging channels and offshore accounts that prosecutors say financed a web of hush payments. Defense attorneys maintained that the entire show is a cash grab powered by social media rumor, but the judge denied 2 motions to dismiss after reviewing evidence in camera. As the courtroom drama unfolds, the reputation of 2 men who are no longer on Earth keeps rising. DMX died in April 2021 after a heart attack triggered by drug complications. Even in death, headlines framed him as troubled first, influential second. Today, fans replay his interviews and notice how often his predictions align with the testimony now under oath. Katt Williams is very much alive and touring. In January 2024, his 3-hour conversation on Club Shay Shay became the fastest podcast episode to cross 20 million streams, eclipsing sports interviews by a wide margin. Viewers wrote in comment sections that Williams finally looks vindicated. With each new exhibit unsealed, memes appear quoting his past warnings about contract clauses and secret parties. Cynics counter that Williams is grandstanding for ticket sales. He shrugs on stage and reads actual docket numbers to prove the the lawsuits exist. Why did society ignore these voices for so long? One answer is financial dependency. New talent often trades silence for airplay. Attorneys draft non-disclosure agreements that bury details under threat of million-dollar penalties. When a major label covers tour expenses and insurance, speaking out means breaching the contract that feeds your crew. Another answer is control of narrative. Large media outlets rely on access. Exposing a star can mean losing future exclusives, so the first wave of coverage frames outspoken artists as erratic instead of courageous. By the time documents prove their claims, the public has developed headline fatigue and moves on. Only a federal indictment brings everyone back to the table. It is impossible to decide guilt before the verdict, but the record already shows how carefully built images can collapse. For more than 2 decades, Combs was celebrated as an icon of black excellence, a model entrepreneur shifting from music to fashion to premium vodka, awards stacked on his mantle while DMX and Williams rotated through courtrooms. Now the global press live streams Diddy's every walk into the courthouse, while editors comb archives for old interviews they once ignored. The moral seems clear: image management is fragile when truth multiplies across social networks faster than any publicist can react. As we zoom out, the intertwined stories of DMX and Katt Williams teach 2 practical lessons. First, know the contract. Attempting advance today can mortgage decades of revenue tomorrow. When lawyers bury options inside dense paragraphs, independence evaporates overnight. Second, document everything. Screenshots, audio backups, secure timestamps. Facts survive smear campaigns. DMX carried notebooks of prayers and lyrics. Katt Williams keeps timestamps of every arrest and release. Those archives become lifelines when courtroom questions arrive years later. Where does the saga go from here? The Combs trial is expected to continue into early July. Prosecutors have not ruled out additional charges. Rumors circulate that more executives will be subpoenaed before the summer ends. Regardless of verdict, civil suits may keep the spotlight on systemic practices inside the entertainment industry. Some analysts predict new government guidelines for artist safety and financial transparency. Others fear the cycle will repeat under different names. What happens next depends on how many insiders step forward and how fans respond. Attention is currency. When listeners reward honesty instead of gossip, the marketplace shifts. But if attention drifts, history warns that silence returns. One part of the story remains tragically permanent. DMX never got to watch the walls shake. He warned, he resisted, and he paid with isolation and ridicule. Yet his words now echo through court transcripts and sworn statements. That resonance may be the closest thing to justice an artist can receive posthumously. Katt Williams, still standing, uses every interview to remind audiences that the path of resistance stays open. You can take the easy road, or you can risk comfort to maintain soul. He jokes about adversity, but never hides the scars. Comedy for him is not escape, it is testimony. We reach the end of our journey, but the conversation continues in comment threads and in every rehearsal room where a new voice decides whether to obey or defy. If this exploration brought value, share it with a friend who still believes the music business is just platinum plaques and bright lights. Subscribe for future investigations and leave your respectful thoughts below. Together we can keep the spotlight on transparency and elevate creators who dare to speak plain truth. Thank you for watching, for listening, and for refusing to look away.